What's up, everybody? My name is Dell. This is Dell on Movies. Thanks for hanging out with me. And if you've been here before, thanks for hanging out with me again. Today we have another response to a challenge video. Tim Talks Talkies, my guy Tim, he put out another community challenge. He has already done horror movies. He's already done holiday movies. He's done 80s movies. This time we're doing 70s movies. This one's a little bit different. He's asking people to send in their top 15 movies of the 70s because you young guys out there, you haven't seen as many movies of the 70s. At least that was his thought, and I gotta tell you, he might be right, guys, because I've been watching some of these videos and y'all put up some great movies, no doubt, but I too many videos. I'm like, man, I only got 15. I barely can make 15 movies. I couldn't make a bigger list, or I could only make a top 10 or a top 5, whatever the list is. I'm seeing those smaller numbers and people barely struggling to get there. And as a result, I'm seeing a lot of the same movies over and over. And some of those movies are gonna be on my list, but I'm OD. I gotta take things a step further. I'm gonna talk about not just my top 15 movies of the 70s. I'm gonna talk about my top 25. Scratch that. I'm going to talk about my top 50 movies of the 70s. Yes, Tim's only going to count the top 15, but what does that matter? That's just for show. That's for the list for you guys. This is to give you some more recommendations. Here's my top 50 movies of the 1970s, and let's go ahead and get rolling on that. My number 50 movie is a horror flick, and this one is called Ganja and Hess. And this is an odd horror flick. It's a vampire movie. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on all these movies because I do want to get through them. But yeah, this is a vampire flick. It is definitely an odd watch. So if you're in the mood for something a little weird, check out Ganja and Hess. Number 49, I'm talking none other than Foxy Brown. Pam Grier is the greatest. And I'm going to mention this. She is to me, she is the quintessential female action hero, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But right now, 49, Foxy Brown. 48 is a Western I have seen on a few people's lists, and that is Clint Eastwood in The Outlaw Josie Wales. Fantastic movie right here. If you haven't seen it, of course, check out all these movies. I'm not even going to say that anymore. Number 48, an oddball gangster movie. We had an oddball horror movie. Here's an oddball gangster movie in that it features only kids. And I'm talking about Bugsy Malone. It's got a young Scott Baio, more importantly, a young Jodie Foster. And all I'm going to say is potato guns. If you've seen it, you know. If you haven't, go check it out. I said I wasn't going to say that, though, right? Number 46, y'all going to give me some flack for this one. This is a movie, all you guys got top 5 just about, and that's fine. It's not in my top 5. Still a great movie, and I'm going with the OG Halloween with The Shape. Number 45 is a movie I first saw probably when I was 5, and then I saw it a bunch of times since then. Fantastic musical drama. So it's not really a straightforward musical. It's more like performances that people only sing when they're on the stage. So it's a movie just with a lot of musical performances and got some classic songs on here, and I'm talking about the original Sparkle. Number 44, war movie. Again, a lot of you guys have this way up higher on the list, and it is a fantastic movie, don't get me wrong. Just not as rewatchable, not one that I've watched a lot, so that's probably why I guess it this low. But I'm talking about The Deer Hunter. Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, Meryl Streep. Fantastic performances all around. Number 43, we talking football, and I'm going with North Dallas 40. Here's Nick Nolte. And if you watched my recent video about my all-fictional football team, his character was on there, and I talked a little bit more about him. So, yes, of course, check out the movie, but check out that video. Number 42 is a biopic, and this stars none other than Diana Ross. She is playing another icon. She's playing Billie Holiday in Lady Sings the Blues. This was not remade, but another version of Billie Holiday's story was told a few years back with Andra Day, the United States versus Billie Holiday. That's also awesome, but this is the OG, and it is amazing. Number 41, Charles Bronson, Bare Knuckle Fighting. I'm talking Hard Times. I've always loved this movie, and I don't care what anybody says. I've heard some people who recently watched it weren't all that impressed. I don't care. I love this movie. Number 41, Hard Times. Number 40, is a movie I feel like I'm underdressed for. I should be wearing my white suit with the black dress shirt and just, showing all my moves. I'm talking Saturday Night Fever. You know what it is. My next two movies are movies I actually don't have in my collection. So number 39 is Superfly. I'm not sure why I don't have Superfly in my collection, but it is a fantastic movie coming out of the blaxploitation era. Ron O'Neal plays the title character, and he gets to some wild stuff. Yes, he's into drug dealing, but he's trying to get out the game, and this movie actually has some things to say. So it gets my number 39 spot. My number 38 spot is another football movie, and this one is Brian's Song. It's got James Caan. It's got Billy D. Williams. It's based on the true story of Gail Sayers, who's played by Billy D., and Brian Piccolo, who's played by James Caan, and their relationship while they both played for the Chicago Bears and played the same position and were competing with each other. It's just a great movie. I know Disney redid it, I guess about 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago by now, but this one is special. At number 37, though, is a movie that I do have, and that is Chinatown. One of my favorite film noirs of all time. One of Jack Nicholson's best performances of all time, and not even the last time you'll see him, I don't think. Maybe. We'll see. Just number 36 is a comedy that has snuck onto a few lists, and it deserves to because it's a hilarious movie and one of the best spoofs out there, and that is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Number 35, a movie I do have, but for some reason I can't find. This is what happens when you stick a bunch of DVDs in boxes. I can't find this movie, but it is a slightly better spoof than Monty Python and the Holy Grail, in my opinion, and that is the Kentucky Fried Movie. It just, I laugh from beginning to end whenever I watch that one. So that gets my 35 spot. At 34 is another movie that has certainly snuck onto some lists, and yeah, it deserves to. It is one of Stanley Kubrick's best, in my opinion, and that is A Clockwork Orange. Number 33, we're going back to the blaxploitation era, guys. You got to watch some more black movies, especially from the 70s, and this one is The Mac. If you listen to early Snoop Dogg, especially, and a lot of West Coast rappers, this movie is referenced a lot. So is Superfly, actually. So we got some. So now you get to know where some of those sayings that you've heard come from. 32, sci-fi horror at its finest. Alien. I'm talking the original. Of course, this is the whole first 4 movies. But yeah, we talking the OG original with the first time you ever saw the chest person. If you haven't seen Alien, what are you doing with your life? Number 31, I said we were going to see Jack again, and I wasn't lying, guys. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I'm going to show this off a little bit. We got this very cool digibook for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and for me, this is probably his best performance. It's right up there with The Shining. So number 30, this is our first Bruce Lee sighting on the list, and it is also our first and only Chuck Norris sighting on the list. That is Way of the Dragon, in which the two had a legendary fight scene, and it is also heavily inspired Quentin Tarantino and a bunch of other people, of course, too. But Way of the Dragon, that is in this beautiful box set. That is my number 30. 29, another one of those movies I don't own yet. It recently came out on 4K. I just haven't grabbed it yet, and I will at some point, maybe, if I don't miss out on it. But I'm talking about The Wicker Man, another oddball of a horror movie. So I'm kind of digging on weird horror, at least on this list. But The Wicker Man is crazy, it's bonkers. The ending is fantastic. Just stay away from that Nicolas Cage remake. The bees, the breeze. Stay away from that one. Number 28, we're gonna stick with the horror theme. And this time we're going to go with vampires, and even better than that, we're going to go with a black vampire. We're going to go with the OG Blackula right here. It is an iconic black horror film, and people who've never heard of it, you hear the title and you go, Blackula? That sounds so corny. That sounds so cheesy, but it's actually really good. Check out Blackula. And of course, the sequel over here came out the following year with Scream, Blackula Scream. That one has Pam Grier. I almost put it on the list just because of Pam Grier, but I gotta be true, gotta be honest, so we're gonna stick with the OG. Number 27, we're going back to some sports. We're going with baseball, and we're going with Bingo Long. And, I always got to look at the title of this movie. I'm sorry, guys. The Bingo Long, Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings. It is just one of the longest, most ridiculous titles ever, but the movie is pretty ridiculous in a good way. Billy D. Williams shows up again. James Earl Jones shows up. Richard Pryor is here, and they just have a ton of fun. And it's based on Negro League Baseball, a barnstorming team. It's not based on a true story, but it is inspired by true events. They're a barnstorming team and going around and trying to get games in and all those sorts of things, and all sorts of shenanigans happen. Number 26. It is a complete opposite of the movie I just talked about. It's about politics and it's dead serious, but it's got two fantastic performances. Dustin Hoffman, Robert Redford. I'm talking about All the President's Men. It is based on a true story, of course. These guys investigating and really breaking the story about Watergate. And as I did before, I didn't do it without Josie Wales. I might pull that up again, but here's another digibook. So really, I like showing these off because I don't have many of them, but they're so nice. Outlaw Josie Wales. Pictures. Don't tell anybody I did that. All right, we're moving into my top 25 now. And this is where a few of my fellow content creators, they also did top 25 lists for the 70s. Shout out to all of you that did that. And right now for my top 25, I'm going to start with another Pam Grier movie. I'm talking Coffee. And this is the part where I'm going to talk a little bit more about Pam Grier. She is, for me, the original female action star. Not just an iconic one, not just a great one or the greatest one. She is really the original one. And I showed Alien, and whenever female action stars get brought up, everybody goes Sigourney Weaver. And, Alien is great, no doubt. This, Coffee, Foxy Brown, these came out years before Alien came out, before anybody really knew who Sigourney Weaver was. And there was not just those two movies. She had a bunch of other movies where she did a lot of action. And she doesn't quite get the props that she wants. I think her fans give her those props, but not everybody else. Not a lot of people recognize her. And one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino quotes, and I'm not a huge, a stan of his like some other people are, but this quote I really respected. And I'm actually not a quote, it's paraphrasing. He mentioned how Shaft was the black James Bond, and he mentioned how even Blackula was like the black Dracula. Pam Grier wasn't the black anything. She was an original, and it gets number 25 on my list. Number 24 is a movie I have seen on a few of you guys' lists, and I always see it. It always comes up whenever people go talk about movies that can't be made today. And I think part of that is because people don't get nuance or not really willing to dig deep enough for satire. And I'm talking about Blazing Saddles. I think the movie could be made again, but it's going to take a smart audience to really sift through all the madness. Number 23 is a movie I don't think I've seen on anybody's list. I got some more lists to watch though, so maybe somebody might surprise me, even in their top 25, the ones that did those, but I'm going to stick it on here. And it's kind of going along with that theme of weird movies. And this one is a remake, kind of, sort of. And we talked about Pam Grier not being a black anything. Well, this is definitely the black version of The Wizard of Oz, and I'm talking about The Wiz, and it's got all kinds of quirkiness and weirdness going on. And yes, Diana Ross plays Dorothy, and she's way too old, but I still love this movie, so it gets 23. Number 22, I might make some people fall out of their chairs. It's either you don't have this movie on the list because it's just not your thing, or you have it like in the top 5, and that's fine. That's the reputation of the movie. Not quite for me. It's a little slow for me, but it's still just an amazing film. Francis Ford Coppola, the original The Godfather, gets my number 22. Number 21 is another movie everybody had like in their top 3. So whenever Tim does, he has a big show where he's gonna compile all the numbers, crunch them, and come up with a definitive list, at least for our community. And this movie, I fully expect to be in the top 3 there. Not for me though. It is great. It is great. So come at me if you want to, but it is great. and I'm talking Rocky at number 21. The number 20 is a war movie that has managed to sneak on quite a few lists, and it definitely deserves it. And this one is Apocalypse Now. There's a lot of different versions of this movie, and just about all the ones that I've seen are just fantastic films. One of the best war movies ever made. Number 19 is a movie that has gained some notoriety lately because, you know, it's one of those that's been edited to soften it up a bit, and I don't think they should do that, but I'm also not going to make a whole video about that. But you guys have seen them. You know, some of you made those videos, and that's okay. We're talking The French Connection, getting number 19. Number 18, we got a heist movie, and talking one of the best heist movies, Dog Day Afternoon, Al Pacino. Attica. Number 17 is a movie that I struggle to leave out of my top 15 because that is the part of the list that Tim's counting, and everybody who's comes to my channel, well, not everybody, this might be your first video, so you don't know, but most people who are part of my audience, they understand that I'm a big proponent of black cinema, and this is a movie that definitely deserves to be held up and exalted. And I will say props and credit and kudos to all the other YouTubers out there whose videos I did see. A lot of you didn't have more than one black movie on there on your list, but this was usually the one, and I'm talking about Shaft getting my number 17. Number 16, another movie I had a hard time leaving out of that top 15 just because it is one of the best horror movies ever made, and I will stand by that, and I'm talking about The Exorcist. Finally, we've gotten to the top 15. Just like I said a moment ago, this is the part of the list that Tim Talkies is actually going to count when he's tallying up the points to come up with his master list that he's going to show on a live stream in a week or two. And so this is where I need him to pay really close attention. Not really because I sent this list to him days ago, because this feels late as hell. So let's just get into the top 15. I might talk a little bit more about these movies, but not a whole lot. But you've been here long enough. But I'm talking about number 15 is the first movie that really sparked my love for superhero movies. I was already a superhero fan, but as far as movies goes, I'm talking Superman the movie from 1978, represented by the 1978. There on the box, of course. Christopher Reeves always be my Superman. Number 14. Number 13, no sound effects. I would sing because that's what this movie calls for, but I don't think you want me to sing. You will immediately switch it off and never come back to my channel, and I don't want that. I want you to come back, hang out just a little bit, but you know, Grease is the word, so that gets my number 13. This is a movie that I actually saw in theaters back when it came out, and I don't know, I must have seen this movie 400,000 or 500,000 times since then, and it is a movie that doesn't seem like it's something that I would be into, but hey, you know, I can't help it. Number 12 is a movie I don't have, the only movie in my top 15 that I don't have, and it is currently trapped in DVD hell. It has never come to Blu-ray. It may not, and that's a shame, and it may not because of one of the stars of the movie. Sidney Poitier is who I want to say he directed the movie, but he is one star. His co-star is Bill Cosby, though, so you know, maybe not. And if you know anything about the two of them together, though, they made a fantastic comic duo in the 70s, which is weird considering Poitier's history in the 60s with very serious movies, and just the furthest thing away from comedy for most of that time. But here we have we have him and Cosby in Let's Do It Again, which is a boxing movie. Jimmy Walker, better known as JJ from Good Times, also stars in the movie. The name Biggie Smalls, for all my hip-hop heads, the name Biggie Smalls comes from this movie. There's a character in this movie named Biggie Smalls. Yeah, it's hilarious from start to finish, at least in my opinion, and I'll leave it at that. Number 11 is a movie that is in this fantastic box set, and I am talking about Five Deadly Venoms or Five Venoms or any title. It is one of my favorite movies of all time as far as martial arts is concerned, and it is just iconic. Lots of things have come from this movie and been influenced by this movie, so it gets my number 11 spot. Number 10, another horror movie that technically I don't think is better than Jaws or The Exorcist, but it's a movie that I return to a lot more often, a lot more replay value out of it, so that has to bump it up. That counts for something, and it gets my number 10 spot though. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. I mean, meeting Leatherface for the first time is where it's at, guys. Number 9 is a movie a lot of you think is a horror movie, but I am steadfast in my opinion that this movie is a dark comedy, is satire. Myself and a few of the stars in the movie share the sentiment, so I don't really care what you think, because I know if you come in my comments you might tell me, come on dude, Carrie, you know this is a horror flick, but I'm talking about Carrie. This is a definite dark comedy for me. Yes, lots of horror elements. Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie amazing in this movie, and the prom scene is just you know, it's enough said. Number 8, this movie might contain Robert De Niro's finest performance. We've already talked about Pacino's possibly finest performance, Jack Nicholson's possibly his finest, and right here we got De Niro as Travis Bickle giving what is arguably his finest performance. And for my young guys out there who have seen Joker and love Joker, definitely find Taxi Driver, get your hands on it, lay your eyes on it, and see where a lot of it comes from. Number 7, one of my favorite martial arts movies of all time, another one, and it comes out of this box set, and I am talking about the 36th Chamber of Shaolin. And if you've never seen this movie, I always think of it as Batman Begins, but for martial arts movies, and it is really that type of movie. He you know, is cast out from somewhere. I won't give too many details. He wants revenge. He winds up going through all this crazy training, and then he comes back. So yeah, for me, this is Batman Begins, but with martial arts. You know, a guy from the Shaolin Temple, and again, one of my absolute favorite martial arts movies of all time. Number 6 is arguably the greatest spoof comedy of all time, and that is none other than Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein. And I like to show off this crazy steelbook because the cover is just really nice. It's really insane. Not much going on the inside of it. This is not an unboxing though. Here to talk about Young Frankenstein. If you've never seen the original Frankenstein or Bride of Frankenstein, which this movie really takes a run at, you can still laugh a lot. But once you have seen those two movies, then you get even more of those jokes, and you can just laugh from the very first word of the movie. It is that funny. Again, at least to me. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But I'm willing to bet that this is a funny movie, or you'll think it's a funny movie once you see it. For number 5, we're going back into the Godfather. The Godfather trilogy. We're going back into the Godfather trilogy. I don't know why I drew a blank on that word all of a sudden. And we're going with the Godfather Part 2. And for me, this is two gangster movies in one, and both movies are phenomenal. We get Pacino as Michael Corleone, you know, and watching him really rise through the ranks. I mean, he's already taken over the family by the end of the first movie. Spoiler for that one, sorry. But now we really get to see him come into his own, and simultaneously we go back in time and we watch a young Vito Corleone, this not played by Brando, but played by Robert De Niro, and his rise to power. And I just said a minute ago that Taxi Driver was arguably De Niro's finest performance. I would argue with this one. His performance here is great. A lot of people don't seem to give De Niro a lot of credit for this performance when they listed it among his best, when they're listing his best, but I always do. This one and Taxi Driver, they're right there together. And Godfather Part 2, and if you couldn't put two and two together, you've been watching this whole video, but I'm going to spell it out for you. Godfather Part 2, way better than Godfather. Number 4 is a movie, another one of those I've seen at least a dozen times. All of these last few movies, I've seen lots and lots of times. This one was just recently put on the Criterion collection, which means lots more people have now watched this movie as of late, and hopefully even more will. And this is a coming of age dramedy. I wouldn't say straight comedy, and definitely not a straight drama. And the iconic song is So Hard to Say Goodbye came from this movie, was remade years later by Boyz II Men, but this is where the song came from. And of course, I'm talking about Cooley High. We got my man, we got Preach and Cochise, and they are best of buddies, and they we just kind of follow them around on their exploits and their shenanigans, and get into whatever they get into. Definitely one of my favorite movies, and one that I hold near and dear to my heart, especially when you're talking about just coming of age movies. Number 3 is probably the movie I've seen the most out of any, which, you know, you could argue this should be number 1. And you know what? It's not the one I've seen the most. There's one more, but it's right there because I watch this movie almost every year, and sometimes twice a year, and that is The Warriors. This is the 4K that just came out. I haven't seen it in 4K yet. I'm not quite dying because there are a lot of other movies I'm trying to watch, you know, over the next few weeks, but I'm definitely going to put this in sooner rather than later. If you don't know the story, it's about a gang. They go to this big gang summit. Some violence happens and they get blamed for it, and all the gangs are mad at them, and they got to find their way home. And I will enjoy watching them find their way home every single time I put it on. Number 2, I'm going to go the route that my man Johnny, or What's Johnny Watching, I'm going to go the same route he went. I'm going to go show a DVD for this one. I actually do have it on Blu-ray, but you know, that's only because I find them cheap for like $1 sometimes, and I can't help myself. But I'm talking about Star Wars, and yes, I just said Star Wars. I didn't say Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, which is what it's now called. It's Star Wars. That's what it was when it came out, so that's what it is for me. And like Johnny said, if you didn't see his video, definitely go check it out. But if you didn't see his video and you're here first, what I'm just going to tell you about it is that this DVD contains the original theatrical cut of the movie, so that is why I am holding on to it, just like Johnny. Unfortunately, I've been told over and over again that George Lucas himself does not want this cut to ever be seen again, to ever see the light of day again, so we probably will never get a Blu-ray 4K or whatever for the OG original theatrical cut of the first 3 Star Wars movies, but I have it on this DVD. Finally, we get to my number 1. My number 1, I could have pulled up a box set that I've already shown, but I didn't want to do that. I'm going to pull up a steelbook that, you know, whenever I get a chance to pull it out and show it, I like to show it. This is just a Blu-ray, not the new fancy 4K that came out a few months back. And when you look at it, at first it's kind of dull and kind of plain. Then the more you look at it, it's kind of cool. And I'm talking about Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee's magnum opus. This is the movie that I've seen more than The Warriors. Again, I definitely watch this movie every year, sometimes twice, occasionally 3 times, but you know, it is what it is. I just love this movie to death. It is, what if James Bond was a martial artist? Or, and that's not even accurate. They made a James Bond movie, right? But they split Bond into several different characters. We got the fighter, which is Bruce Lee. We got the suave womanizer, that's the John Saxon character. And then we got the one who just oozes cool, and that's Jim Kelly's character. And put them all together, and we got a great villain, and just some of the best fight scenes ever. Definitely the best fight scenes of the era. And it just stands unparalleled. Enter the Dragon, my number 1 on the top 70 movies, on the top movies of the 70s. That's my list, guys. If you want to submit your list, I fear you might be too late by the time this video gets out, so just tune in to the live stream that Tim has. He has not, I don't think he's put out the exact date and time yet, but if he does, by the time I get this video out, I'll put it somewhere on the screen. If not, just keep checking back. I'll announce it on my community tab. But I would still love to hear what your favorites of the 70s are. So go ahead and put them down in the comments, or tell me how great or bad or terrible that my list is. And I love talking about those too. That's all I have for you guys on this one. I will catch you on the next one. Bye.